Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Market Check, brought to you, of course, by Because Bitcoin. Happy Wednesday, guys. Happy hump day. We are now, well, not quite yet, but we're almost halfway through our trading week. A reminder that there is no second best daily YouTube live stream to discuss markets. We hope you guys have enjoyed the content so far this week. I'm Snorlax. You guys also know me as Tommy. I'm joined by Max. We'll see if we can get some of the other guys in here later on in this show. But we're going to give you guys some great content, possibly some trades as well. And of course, as always, some big, juicy alpha. Real quickly before we get to cooking and sharing that alpha, we always appreciate when you guys smash that like button. Of course, we'll bug you again, but I think Mimir actually sums it up the best. Destroy and caress the like button. You can get the balance, the best of both worlds, right? You can either destroy the like button or you can very gently caress the like button. Either way, we appreciate you guys showing support for our streams and for our brand. But let's get into it, guys, right? Because look, the elephant in the room has been this Bitcoin pump throughout the week, right? 44K was touched yesterday, 45K a week two on Coinbase. Really just this insane rally that we've seen, it really just continues. Will we see a total spread and basis blowout before there is a top locally? I think that is kind of my biggest question at this point, right? I've talked a lot about this week, how gold opened this week with this massive candle to the upside. My question is, has Bitcoin already put in this type or the equivalent move to that, or have we still yet to have, like I said, just that massive candle to the upside, that spread blowout, that basis blowout, that will really mark some sort of local top, and which afterwards, right, we can start to see some more sustainable flows into a lot of these altcoins, and not just what we're seeing right now. We're seeing a small number of altcoins pop, and really total hasn't, or total 2 and total 3 are still yet to move aggressively to the upside and follow Bitcoin's lead. So those are things that could be likely to happen should we see any sort of Bitcoin pullback here over the next 2 weeks and resulting rotation into altcoins. But yeah, no, alts are kind of giving mixed signals at the moment. It really does seem like Bitcoin is still the king until further notice, and that is the market to continue watching. But it is interesting to me, Max, that we did finally start to see some profit taking from the BitMEX Chad whale that started filling longs near 37K last week. I think he filled a stupid amount in longs, like 200 million. And he finally closed them out today for the most part. I'm not sure if he's fully out, but it is something to take note of. Doesn't mean it's the top, right? But it does mean we are seeing smart money start to take profit within the context of this move. Real quickly, before I pass it over to you, we got equities down about 1%, but nothing major. The one thing I kind of want to, or not, they're not down 1%. What am I talking about? They're basically flat. I misspoke. But the one thing I really wanted to potentially speak about on this show with you, Max, is that we've been viewing the rally in equities from the perspective that it has been, equities leading with crypto slightly lagging behind. I want to now take the flip side of that, the opposite angle, in that what if crypto is, once again, we've talked about this a lot on this show, what if crypto is in fact leading equities, contrary to what we've kind of believed? And we can see that right through Bitcoin's massive impulse from a vertical accumulation pattern. The SPX is currently grinding towards a very, very critical level of resistance. It's not giving any dips. If we get dips and we break structure, I think you can probably start to rule the correlation out a little bit. It might not be necessarily the same, or that crypto's leading. But if we continue just kind of this grind and this chop, and I mentioned as long as we stay above 4,500, I think for stocks, or for the SPX, that is, I think as long as we stay above 4,500, the window of weakness, we open the door up for a massive move to the upside. Could Bitcoin be telegraphing the move that we're seeing? Could Bitcoin be telegraphing a potential move in equities that we have yet to see? So all that and more, guys. I think we're going to have a great show today. But like I said at the start of the show, happy Wednesday. We're What are you seeing in the markets today, Max? I saw that your hood call that I don't know if you talked about it on Market Check yet, but you definitely gave it to the Giga Chads. Hood is ripping today.
Yeah, hood's ripping today. Great introduction, Tommy. I'm excited. I'm kind of hoping that, no offense to the rest of the team, I'm kind of hoping you and I can just go toe to toe today, man. I don't think we've ever done that before. That would certainly be a fun episode, but
It's been a while.
It's been a long time. Yeah, hood is ripping. The Discord got the play. We bought a bunch of hood calls at like when spot price was at about 880. Right now it's at 1118, and earlier today it was at 1150 almost. So we're up over 200% on those calls already. Those are for Q2, early Q2 of next year. So pretty exciting. And guys, forgive me, I'm just getting over a cold. If I sound a little stuffy and I've got a cough drop into, I hope it doesn't come through the mic in a weird way. But I'll tell you, I want to comment first on this. The smart money taking profits on Bitcoin. Oh man, it was it BitMEX, Tommy?
It was, yeah. So probably BitMEX. Arthur, I'm assuming, the only guy with that type of size that still trades on BitMEX.
Speaking of BitMEX, man, they really squandered the opportunity. They were like #1 platform for a long time, and just everybody kicked their butt. But I'll tell you, I think the only thing to note about that whale that's taking profits is he's got weak hands. I think he's got weak hands. I don't know if he's smart money or he was sized in too much and he doesn't know what to do, so he's just taking profit. But kind of joking, kind of not. But let's get into it a little bit. I want to talk about, there's this debate, what's leading, what's lagging. Is SPX leading Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin leading SPX? I want to get into all that, and I want to show some charts. And I actually want to take the other side of that argument that you posed or you brought to the discussion, Tommy, because I actually think that SPX is leading. And I know we've talked about the chart before, but I want to point out specifically the vertical accumulation pattern that equities had earlier in the year that I think relays where we're at right now a little bit better. So I'm gonna show my screen now. We also welcome Dr. Will's Outlook to the panel, man. We love having the doctor here. He's going by the name Janet Yellen right now. We'll see how long that lasts. But yeah, guys, this was the play that the Discord got. We're playing early Q2 calls that are already up 2x. They're already in the money, which is pretty cool, man. It's really, really cool. But yeah, we sniped this bottom right here. Recognize this little deviation. The Discord got it in real time. A lot of the guys are already up 200%. So it's absolutely fantastic. Definitely check that out. But let's do a little bit of, let's have some fun here. All right. Let's have some fun. And I'm going to show you, Tommy, why I think, respectfully, you have it backwards. All right. I'm going to present you with all the evidence and you tell me what you think. All right. So here's Bitcoin on the left. We'll delete these drawings. We have SPX on the left, Bitcoin on the right. We're going to adjust the time frames here. Let's go to, let's go right here. In my opinion, it makes a lot more sense to view it like this. All right, so we're going to label these out just for the people watching at home. All right, here's Bitcoin. We're going to make it orange for Bitcoin. And here's SPX. And we're going to we'll make it blue. All right, I think that you view it like this to start. So we'll go here, and we'll go here. All right, so marking out the two bottoms. And then I think we can make this, marking out this high and marking out this high. And then we're going to mark out the high for SPX in March. Oops, I already used green. Hang on, guys. We're just warming up the hands today. We're just warming up the hands. Marking out vertical accumulation. Marking out vertical accumulation. I think that it makes a lot more sense that we're somewhere around here. Okay, and we could even mark out we could even mark out this little maneuver right here. Same thing happened on SPOO. So I think the way that I look at it, to me, it appears as though Bitcoin is lagging SPX, and we're just now breaking out with our vertical accumulation. And I think on the lower time frames, the correlation changes a little bit, but to me, I'm viewing Bitcoin as the laggard, something that is maybe a little bit more speculative, where really until the stock market, until legacy indexes were in a much more healthy posture, people didn't feel comfortable speculating on Bitcoin. And I don't personally view Bitcoin as, a speculative asset, but I think that TradFi does. So what do you think about this, Tommy?
No, I definitely see what you're pointing out. I know we've had this discussion before. I
like
can
how
see
you
it
said
both
that.
ways. No, I know we've been talking about this for a while. I'm just posing the flip side that now I still think that we could see a huge rip on the S&P here over the next few weeks. Depending on whether or not we stay above 4,500. But the one difference in structure that I do notice is that where the vertical accumulation kind of occurred on the respective structures. That's the one thing that kind of makes me hesitate a little bit. Makes me feel like Bitcoin is breaking out from or is pulling the move that the S&P could be about to pull off, right? And Bitcoin was, in fact, the first to bounce from its most recent low. And at the time, I remember we thought that was very odd, given how stocks were trending lower. But we've often seen the correlation between the two assets over the last few months, or really over the last few years, where crypto has kind of led the stock market because it's a risk on asset, it's a risk asset class. But I see it both ways. I guess if the S&P goes up vertically either way, it doesn't really matter, right?
But see, I also see what you're talking about here, Tommy. Like this could be the move that this is the move you're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So SPX doing something like this, right? Am I looking at this correctly? Yeah.
I don't know. I think the time spans are just they're so different, right? Like I think SPX moves more like in like higher time frames. Bitcoin moves in kind of like mid-tier time frames. And then if you look at the two also, like if we wanted to look at correlation, that second rejection at 30K almost makes that by itself, that second rejection at 30K by itself with a breakout on SPY led that move, right? SPY broke out, Bitcoin rejected, Bitcoin said no, SPY said yes. And now at that point, like I would almost say you're behind the move once that occurred. If they followed each other tit for tat, I would subscribe to the current move following the other move, but they definitely didn't follow each other tit for tat. Bitcoin was more suppressed in price in that range, whereas SPY was able to free range much higher. Not to mention too, SPY already capitulated or slash recovered its entire waterfall move, or its entire we'll say its entire capitulation move, right? And it did that months ago. Whereas like Bitcoin is yet to recover its entire waterfall or capitulation move, that occurred prior to all this run up. I don't know if that all that makes sense, but your capitulation move was your last shoulder drop. You might as well just take all the bounces out and just run it straight down to the bottom from where we recovered in SPY. And same thing with Bitcoin. That 48K was that real flush. I would argue that you saw the same thing if you were to pull up Tesla. Tesla had a flush in the same exact area. All these, everything in the market as a whole flushed at the same time. And some of these things have recovered the flush. Some are just now coming up to recover the flush. If that makes sense.
No, I would agree with you, Will. I think it's kind of about defining time frames, right? From the context of, for one, right, the S&P is much closer to its current all-time highs than Bitcoin is. And that is a lot about timing for Bitcoin. Bitcoin this year has underperformed the S&P for large stretches, and then it will. I mean, look at the SVB move off the low. We went from 19 to 31K in basically 10 days. So, Bitcoin will catch up. But it is kind of like I'm saying, it's kind of about defining your time frames. And on a higher time frame, the S&P, I agree with you. It is in fact leading Bitcoin, right? In the sense that, Bitcoin is now making up the ground relative to its all-time high that the S&P already has. But I think on a lower time frame basis, and within the context of local moves, you'll typically see risk assets lead off the low, and Bitcoin has been kind of symbolic of that.
Yeah, I can see the thesis of risk leading off the lows. I feel like a lot of the money, at least overall this year, has been soaked up in the majors and big caps and so on and so forth. Not as much risk. I think like the higher beta risk, sure, but and I would say Bitcoin's probably the higher beta risk. But I would say Bitcoin's kind of like your outperformer to SPY almost at a higher leverage position, and then so I would agree in that thesis too. I don't know. It's a difficult conversation when it comes to a lot of this. Again, I look at it like what is recovered, and then came back and recovered, and then recovered, and SPY came up, recovered the flush, came back down, capitulated the entire move up, right? So it filled the gap essentially. Think of it like filling the gap. It came back down, filled the entire run up, filled the gap, and now it's running back up again. And now people will expect some kind of sideways chop here or some kind of, some kind of breakdown. But in reality, all price has been rebalanced for SPY. Bitcoin is yet to do that. Bitcoin is moving up now to fill the gap, and really Bitcoin could definitely come back and fill the gap back down, or at least the move that came up, and then come back up again, and then retest and not have to come back after that. And that's why like I'm really kind of watching this at the moment, and even though like I guess the shorter term you could be right. It could be Bitcoin leading just that smaller move here. But overall, I think Bitcoin structure follows something similar to what SPY is doing right now, or already has done. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I just think that the timing is. I mean, yes, you can see my little colors here, right? But if we look at this, for example, like this final sweep that we had at the low, and look at my cursor, right? You can see like the timing of it, and you can see this move that we had off of this low for SPY, relative to its performance, right? It was 20% up. Bitcoin had a nice move as well. But given its beta, this was, even though it was a higher percentage for Bitcoin, it didn't retrace as much of its move relative to its previous drop. So that's, I'm just looking at this. It's hard for me to see it any other way. The timing of it, just seems to work out pretty nicely. And even this drop right here, SPOOs didn't go down and breach this low. Bitcoin didn't either. As much as I wanted it to, it actually front ran it. You can't really tell because we're zoomed out, but it did front run it. So it just seems to me this is a little confusing here, though. Like if we're trying to pair it one for one, this little gap up here, I don't, equities didn't really have it quite as much. I mean, this accumulation here for Bitcoin occurred, above the previous two highs, where equities it basically came below it. So I don't know how to interpret that. Actually, maybe let's look at the NASDAQ and see.
Well, I would say this too,
no,
Max.
same thing.
A lot of people will look at this and they'll be like, well, this is rough, this is off, and that's off, and that's off. But in reality, it doesn't have to match tit for tat, right? We're just looking for the bigger strides in the move and trying to, I guess, weed out the bounces and the noise in the move. And the best way to do that, and this is why, I definitely like Jackass's thesis and the way Jackass looks at things, because I look at them the same way, is to just dial out the noise by bumping up the time frame, right? Throwing it on a monthly, throwing it on the weekly, and kind of doing a comparison on the higher time frames, because it kind of weeds out the noise, so you can see exactly how the move kind of occurred. Here, I'll if you could, Max, I don't know if you could triple chart that. Could you throw like spot or Tesla to the right? And
Will,
Tesla was
give me
really my
something hard to
teller on
do,
this
man. I can
market.
triple chart. No problem.
Tesla, I'll be honest with you guys. That was my kingmaker. That was the one that told me everything about the market and how healthy the market was. If you look at Tesla there, or do you have it up yet? Or
Yeah, here's Tesla right here.
all right. So if you look there, and I called this move to a T, man. Right here at the high where you had that first run down, and then you had that run up, right, as you were dropping. You had an M formation high. It's a little weird looking M. Then you had a drop, and then that second run up, I knew they were going to M again and they were going to flush, right? Because you had a mimicking pattern. So you had an M right there, and then you had your flush. Could you identify that flush? Just do that little box thing that you do with these.
You're talking about
Typical.
this?
Nope, not that one. Not that one. Before we turned around. Before we turned around. To the left more.
This.
Right there. That was your flush on the entire market. If you were to identify that on all three charts, that was your all the way up though. All the way up. That was your flush move on every single one.
Bitcoin started like right here. Equities, it's like right here, basically.
Everything pretty much started S in the bed at that position. But after that flush, I knew they were going to do one more thing. What did they do on SPY and Bitcoin on both of them after that flush? I know we got the bounce, but after that bounce, what did we do? We swept the low one more time on SPY and Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
What did Tesla do?
Tesla V recovered.
Tesla bounced higher. That told me where the reversal was occurring. Everything else swept the low. Tesla showed strength. And so when I looked at that, because I take Tesla as like a signal or like a kingmaker when it comes to stocks. And it's an easy play. If Tesla plays inverse of everything else is coming up with it. And then so we got the bounce on SPY and Bitcoin. What did they do after that? They got higher lows, just like Tesla did, but later. They lagged Tesla. And so you had the entire market bounce at that position and roll up. But that flush, that was the flush I saw across the board. You saw it first in SPY, because SPY is much higher, as you can see right there, right? And then you saw Tesla start to puke directly after. And then Bitcoin really puked once it capitulated below 30. That was your second flush. You came up, you retested at 30, and then you straight flushed all the way down into the 20s. That was the move nobody expected. Arguably, just like the current move that's occurring right now, right? Nobody's expecting this move to continue.
Oh, I am.
The flush
My
occurred.
Q1 positioning is reflective of that.
But if you look to your left too, Max, did Tesla recover its entire flush?
It's just about retraced all of it. Yeah.
It's just about retraced all of it. Okay. Did SPY recover its entire flush?
Yeah.
SPY did recover its entire flush. Did Bitcoin recover its entire flush?
Just about. Yeah. Pretty close.
It's just about. And so when we look up here, I can understand the want to not bid here and think there's going to be some sort of resistance. I can understand that, because across the board, if you were to look at this is the zone of high resistance, right? Tesla rejected here. SPY rejected here.
Yeah, but so
Bitcoin.
here's the thing, Will. Here's the thing with SPX, right? I think SPX is leading. I think, in my opinion, that's clear, right? Lower time frames we can debate, intraday what the correlation is like, but higher time frame, in my opinion, SPX is clearly leading, and that's because it's an index that's dominated by, a handful or two of mega cap tech companies that have a very concentrated. Let's just put it this way. There's a handful of companies that dominate this index and they dominate the markets. And without them, the SPX looks a lot different. The weighting of the SPX is arguably very unhealthy because it's so concentrated in these mega cap tech companies, Apple, Amazon, Google, whatever. Okay. So I'm looking at the state of the market right now. And we all as a team went into Q4 saying, okay, there's a good chance that we're going to have this, Q4 Santa Claus rally across the board between equities and probably crypto. And, we recognize this, but we said the trade is probably not going to be just longing SPX. Although if you bought the bottom of that dip, it's pretty solid. It's going to be a stock pickers environment. And that's where we've been just knocking it out of the park, is finding individual companies like Tesla, like Robinhood, my Robinhood play that I just took and gave to our Discord, right? Clean Spark, like a lot of these individual companies that are dramatically outperforming the SPX because, for lack of a better term, they're beach balls underwater. And we recognize that early on. So I'm drawing these boxes here. And again, it's high time frame and, we're just quickly drawing them live here on the show. But in my opinion, Tesla is lagging that of SPX and Bitcoin, and it's going to do something more akin to this, where it's going to mark up, take out the previous high. We're going to see, 300 to 310, then reaccumulation. And then, sometime later on, we'll actually go on up and, trail what Bitcoin did and SPX did. I think that this is somewhat reasonable. Before people start throwing money into higher beta things traditionally, like a Tesla or a Bitcoin, they like to make sure that SPX, the index of health, is moving in the right direction. So, anyways, I think that Tesla and a lot of these individual companies that have been ignored and neglected because people have been concentrating their wealth and their focus in the SPX or the 5 to 10 mega cap companies that, have a very lopsided weighting in the index, have been dominating the focus the past 18 months. But I think that that's starting to change as people recognize that the real value is in individual companies that were not beneficiaries of those individual mega cap tech companies running up and dragging the whole index with them.
Well, here's the thing though, too, Max. You're right, but you're right in the sense of people that know kind of what they're doing. For your normal person who has no time to research, I'll never say you don't have time, because I think everybody has time. You just have to make it. But for your normal person who doesn't want to think when investing, their best bet is to just buy SPY and set in it and stay at the rate of inflation, not necessarily beat inflation, because I don't think SPY beats inflation anymore. I think it stays at the rate of, probably keeps you somewhere in the realm of where you're not losing money against inflation, but you're not gaining money either. So it's essentially just kind of a pointless stock outside of just trying to keep up with the damage that the printing does to the overall dollar. But overall, I could get on board with the whole Tesla is lagging for sure. I could definitely get on board with that. I'll give you one up from here. I don't know if you could do 4 here, but I would throw Q's in there.
Well, you already know I can do 4, man. Come on, give me something hard to do. Easy, quick adjustment, not a problem.
Because Q's is where I think the market's going.
All right, hang on. This is going to just take a little massaging, but we're going to get it done. Hang on. So you want QQQ up here as well, or just the NASDAQ?
Yep.
All right, hang on now. Everyone hold on. We're going to get this done. We're doing some artwork today, guys. We are doing some absolute artwork. Yes, we are. We're Bob Rossing these charts today. Okay. Can you guys see this okay, or is it like way too small?
No, looks good. Looks good.
That
I like
works.
Okay. All right, we're drawing this out. Hang on here. Hang on. Got to draw our special little boxes again, guys. See, QQQ looked entirely different. You know, QQQ didn't really, it like skipped a box. I mean, we could maybe call it this, but QQQ just went on an
Well,
absolute
here's the thing.
tear earlier this year. And then it did its vertical accumulation earlier on than everything else, you know?
I don't know, Max. I think it had less downtime than everything else. It still had the same pullbacks. If you look at the lows, it still had the same resistances. Like it's very similar to the rest of them. The only thing Q's did better than the rest is it didn't sweep a lower low. It kind of swept a double bottom.
But it definitely led, Will. I mean, you won't deny that. I mean, look at the breakout that
It
happened
led
here. So
100%.
here's QQQ.
Yep.
QQQ broke out arguably May 17th, this red line. If we go to May 17th on SPX, it was still within this vertical accumulation. It was still right in here. And QQQ had broken out. I mean, QQQ led all year, and it's because of that concentration in mega cap tech that we saw, where in the QQQ, the NASDAQ ETF, it is specifically overweight those companies that were the leaders all year. But now I believe that rotation is starting to happen where things like Bitcoin can have its time of day. Things like Robinhood can have its time of day. Tesla can shine, you know? So I think a lot of eyes, you know, I think that QQQ, we're going to start to see, if you were to chart like QQQ against the Russell, I actually think you might see the Russell outperform here for a little bit.
Yeah, and that's always the key thing. Like I like that you said that, because a lot of people ignore the fact. They ignore the fact that there's a time and there's a place for all of these ETFs, all these stocks, higher beta, lower beta, safety. There's always a time and a place, and people tend to, more often than not, try to overcomplicate, what part of the series you're in or what part of the rotation you're in. And it's really just a game, right? It's a game of more or less like four areas. Bonds, right? That's your long-term game. Um, Growth, that's you're growing your portfolio gain. Everybody should have growth. Even your guys that are basically in maintenance mode should have some growth, and they typically do. And then you have preservation, and then you have safety, right? And safety is like, oh shit, everything is going down. I mean, granted, some people say, oh, well, bonds is safety. No, bonds is opportunity. That's what bonds is. Bonds is when is the opportunity the greatest for bonds, and when is it the least greatest? Because if you can get a 10-year bond at like say 5 to 7%, and then say 3 years from now bonds are at like 0.5%, at that point you could sell that bond for exponentials, because the person knows what the back end looks like on that. So they're gonna pay over what you paid for it to get that bond. So you can make a
let's
quick
talk
flip
about bonds quick.
essentially on that.
Let's talk about bonds quick, because this chart is, woo, man, who could have foreseen, Tucker? Where are you, Tucker? I know you're in the chat. Who could have foreseen .eth, Tucker? Who could have? Look at this. This is capitulation, man. This is absolute capitulation. Look at this. Look at, we're starting to break out. We're starting the high time frame PO3. Guys, alarm bells. Alarm bells, guys. Who could have foreseen?
Look at that candle, man. That's a nasty candle.
Look at this thing, man. This was your last line of defense, was this diagonal right here.
I mean, you don't have to like look at your highs there. You've already come back below. You might retest that resistance, which will make people think it's coming back up, but you're gonna drop.
Do this right here. You'll do this. This is it right here.
Yeah, there's gonna be some kind of like fake out here where it's gonna try and pretend like it's coming back up. People are gonna hope.
You don't stop until we're. I mean, it's possible we could stop at these highs right here. Maybe, which would be 4.25 roughly. But I mean, you're still, there's nothing, there's nothing. That's it. It's over. We literally charted this here live on Market Check for you guys right here. We're saying we're going to break down here. This is most likely a giant deviation above our fair value. This is capitulation in bonds and blow off top in yields. I have not moved this drawing. Go back to, it was sometime in the middle of October, sometime between October 17th and October 31st. Someone can go dig it up in the old Market Check. We have all of them here on YouTube. You can go back. You have to dig through hours. Maybe don't do it. Don't waste your time. But I have not moved this at all. Straight down in a straight line. TLT, straight up in a straight line. When every macro head on Twitter was telling you this time is different, oversupply of bonds, this time is different, TLT's going to 50 or 60. We stepped in here with some size, okay? We stepped in here with some size and are just riding this thing, man. Absolutely riding it. But yeah, bonds, I mean, talk about opportunity. You have to recognize the signs of capitulation. You also have to recognize that capitulation can be, a 30% area. You could capitulate 30 or 40% down, so it's hard to know exactly where the bottom is. But if you're versed in technical analysis, that's all you needed to know. This is all you needed to know was, oh, okay, we're in capitulation in bonds. We're in blow off top territory in yields. Let's just draw a trend line. And when we start to have a change or a shift of our trend, which was a break of this trend line right here, this diagonal line, I'll make it a little bit bigger. Okay, when we break this line and the trend starts to shift, let's take a chance on it. Let's take a chance that perhaps we're done with capitulation, because then you have a relatively tight invalidation where you say, okay, well, you reclaim that trend line, it hasn't worked. Then the capitulation continues. So anyways, it's just, talk about opportunity, Will. I think you said that word. It's opportunity. Look at this, man. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing that you can literally chart. You can literally chart yields, and they say that you can't. They say it's dependent on factors that are out of our control. Well, then why can I draw diagonal lines on it, and why does it work? You
need the deal with it glasses.
Yeah, literally. All right. Well, anyways, let's you guys want to see some real dubious speculation today? I don't know if I want to get into this live, man. It's
now max code.
It's territory I normally don't venture in. Tommy, I just have one thing to say to you right now. Squeeze him.
Oh, man.
Squeeze him. I'm not providing any more context than that, but squeeze him. Okay. What I'm looking for Bitcoin here, this is one of 100 possible scenarios, right? Some more likely than others, but I want to just talk about a very, very consistent sign of exhaustion from a momentum perspective, specifically talking about RSI and bear divs. Let's go back and look at some previous high time frame bear divs. This is the 3-day chart. Before we had this top here in 2019, we formed a lower high here on 3-day RSI and a higher high. And if you had sold the first high time frame, so 2 to 3 day plus bearish divergence on the RSI, that was the top. That was the sign of exhaustion. Let's keep it moving. Same thing here. This is a long chain. This Wyckoff distribution was multiple, right? A consecutive lower highs on 3-day RSI. Well, we were up and away. But we'll just talk about the first one, right? So you see first major bearish divergence on the high time frame RSI, 2-day and 3-day. You're pretty close to a top. Same thing here for the 69K top for Bitcoin. Not as pronounced, but nonetheless, still lower high on the 3-day. That was the top. I am not seeing any true signs of higher time frame bear divs calling a top yet. This right here, higher high. We haven't even formed a bear div yet. You can kind of ignore the fractal or not, This is, by the way, I didn't move this fractal at all. I literally drag and dropped it. Like I literally dragged it from right here and just put it there because it looked similar. We don't have any signs of high time frame bear divs yet. You know, this is like some real moon boy stuff. But I'm just saying, I can't really get bearish until I start to see real signs of exhaustion. Bitcoin is a freight train right here. Bitcoin's a freight train. Let's talk about a calendar. Let's talk about the calendar. We know that by January 10th, we're supposed to have a decision on the ETF. So January 10th would be right here. So I'll mark this out on my chart as Bitcoin ETF approval date. Be January 10th. So what if we come up here and we literally tag like mid 50s, consolidate and range into the end of the year? The Bitcoin ETF gets approved. And then we have like 2 weeks of froth, and we're literally at an all-time high before the halving. Connect this trend line to this trend line. All-time high before the halving. Everybody goes, oh my gosh, we're going to 100K before the halving. And then, you know, RSI comes down, does something like this. Then we get a bear div, you know. So then here's our bear div on the RSI. And it's way, way higher than here. And then after that, you know, we literally just have like a monster correction back down to like 40K or something like that. You know, what if you have to entertain a scenario like this? You simply have to. I know it seems a little bit wild, but I don't know. You got to have some fun with it. Sometimes you just have to hold on tight and believe, you know. But anyways, I'm really waiting to see some high time frame bear divs, and I haven't seen them yet. Like all these tops are marked by high time frame bear divs, and I haven't seen one yet, you know. But it's going to be tough to hold on, you know. Something like this does happen.
The bear div angle is a pretty interesting point, because we could, you know, on a higher time frame, just looking at the 3-day, like we could get, we could chat higher and then have a snapback correction, and you know, in the grand scheme of things, it could be a flash in the pan type of dip, right? Looking at RSI like that, you know, assuming that this is the start of our parabolic uptrend.
Yeah. It's I don't know, you know, we've talked about what an all-time high before the halving could be, and maybe we are living in like this crazy unique time where there truly is a supply shortage of a scarce asset that is on the verge of institutional adoption. And it's not uncommon to see multiple 30 to 40% pullbacks along the way to, you know, a new all-time high or a parabola, even an aggressive bear market rally. We've seen that numerous times, but man, I'm just seeing so many people that are clearly not exposed at all. And, you know, I mean, underexposed doesn't even become, it's not even an appropriate word, you know, for them. Like have no exposure, haven't been trading, like can't wrap their heads around what's going on, are praying for the downfall, trying to short this thing on every low time frame drop. You know, and I just think like, what if, I mean, dude, literally look at this fractal. Like I didn't move it at all. Here it is. I'll just drag this one. I'll drag it right over here. Like I didn't massage it. Like it's literally just a drag and drop. And I know that fractals, you know, you have to use them appropriately with the context, and you know, it's never the exact same, and you're totally correct. But when I'm looking for high time frame signs of seller exhaustion, I need something like this. I will sell on the bear div. I might shave along the way a little bit, but what are we talking about here? I mean, you really want to shave, like you want to shave right here? You want to shave 44? Like look at this crazy strength here. You know, I mean, careful with leverage, right? But it's a freight train. It's an absolute freight train.
Well, if we were just rip like that on Bitcoin, the alt season that we would have in that scenario would be like if we top at 87 and then basically just chopped downwards for like a year or something like that. I mean, alts would go bananas in that scenario.
What if they're dragged up, Tommy, but actually we get that move that you were looking for BTC dominance to go to 59, 60%. And altcoins, yes, they get dragged up by Bitcoin. But what if it's really just the Bitcoin show? And Bitcoin dominance goes to 60%. And yes, alts go up in US dollar, denomination, but not like you hope, What if we don't really get that alt season until, I don't know, Q2 or something like that?
That would be wild. That would be wild. I do think that Bitcoin dominance is going to find a top here in the next few weeks. That makes sense to me, unless we get a scenario like you just outlined where it kind of just continues to rip incessantly for the entirety of Q1.
Yeah, and what's not ripping incessantly right now is the like button. I can't believe I've gone this long without it. Guys, we got 61 people watching. We got 35 likes on the video. That's not right, guys. We got to get it at least 1-to-1. Guys, if you are here, if you are enjoying the content so far, please consider helping the channel, helping us grow by hitting that like button. It just takes 1 second. That's all we ask, is that you just hit that like button, guys. Help us push this content to more people. Whenever you guys hit that like button, we immediately jump in viewers. So guys, please, if you are enjoying that content, just take one quick moment. Make sure you're signed into your YouTube account and hit that like button. We greatly appreciate your guys' continued support. And thank you guys so much for being here. Again, we also are approaching 3K subscribers on YouTube. Wow. A long-awaited accomplishment. We are hoping to get there this week. I think we're like 10 away. So if you are new here, or maybe you're a regular but haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing us the courtesy of not just liking, but also subscribing to the video. Subscribing to the channel, liking the video, and subscribing to the channel. I just want to hit 3K. We're so close. I just really want it, guys.
He wants 3K on the subs and 3K on ETH.
Is that all you want for Christmas? Like Mariah Carey?
Dude, Mariah Carey's just cashing out, man. That song plays and she just cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Just Prince. It's like
Prince.
The Federal Reserve when it comes to Christmas.
Just Prince, man. But yeah, guys, please consider subscribing as well. I know there's probably a handful of you out there that, maybe came from Twitter or just found us here on YouTube, but please subscribe. Help us get to 3K. We are so close to 3K. But yeah, anyways, I don't know. I mean, I have to think something like this happens and Bitcoin dominance just continues to chad. I don't really see why it wouldn't. We could retrace this entire inefficiency up here to 60% at this point, and it might get front run a little bit. I could also see maybe this, 57, something like this. So maybe we don't get that highly anticipated 60%, but yeah, I do think altcoins are going to rip. But I look at Bitcoin and I'm like, what if Bitcoin just, literally does something ridiculous, like absolutely ridiculous. Everybody wants to sell at 48K. What if it just literally teleports, What if it just teleports?
If it just teleports, does it stop at 60 at that point? Or does it continue to, what would it even go to at that point? Maybe something crazy like 65? I don't know if it would go quite that high, but
yeah, I don't know either. I just know that I want to wait to see clear signs of seller exhaustion. And, everybody thinks the top is going to happen within like one day. The top will happen over multiple weeks for a move like this. The eagerness to just like sell because like you think it's the Pico top. I mean, these distributions that we've had for Bitcoin, look at these. These take weeks, months, go back further. Like, look at this. This one took, months, takes so long to top for Bitcoin, same thing. So it's like, what are you really like that eager to sell on like the first parabola, impulse up before any real signs of seller exhaustion? Topping takes time, just like bottoming takes time. Everybody, it's this short-sighted fallacy where people think like, oh, you have to like, knife catch a wick, look at how long it took to carve out this bottom. If you want to just even exclude, like this is the bottom and just count all of this as the bottom right here. I mean, look how long we had to form this bottom. And even if you bought within 20% of the bottom, that's fantastic. If you can sell within 20% of the top, that's fantastic. You know how rare it is to buy the Pico bottom and sell the Pico top? It's a meme. You might do it once or twice in your life, or if you're just mindlessly DCAing Bitcoin, you'll do it. But it's extremely rare. It's extremely rare. So yeah, I think patience, here, even though there's a lot of euphoria and things are moving quickly, a lot of these guys that are speculating on like crashes coming really soon for Bitcoin, these are low time frame traders. They're trading hour by hour. I truly think the guys that are going to win here, they're going to have to exercise some patience. They're going to have to take this thing week by week. If this is the top, hypothetically, all right, let's just remove the most bull. I saved it as most bull. I've got look how many scenarios I've got here. I map out everything. Let's assume this is the top. Okay. Let's just assume this is the top. It'll probably, if it is the top, it would do something like this. It would probably do something like this. It would take so long. We could be up here until February. Yep. Why cut yourself short of a potential, additional 20% up because you're convinced this is the top? Wait for clear signs of distribution. Wait for clear signs that this actually is a distribution. This is a topping signal. Why would you sell it right here on the first impulse up when we have to spend some time distributing?
But
why?
Max, my compound, I need to compound because, if I don't let it come back 20% or 10% or 2%, my compound's going to be way less. So my missed opportunity on down, I'm just being facetious to all the people to talk about that kind of crap. Like half of them don't even know like what down is. It's funny. They always talk about compound, but I mean, tell me how many successful compound traders you actually know out there that can sell a position by significantly lower within the range that they were looking for every single time and execute on that. I think it's not as
rare. It's rare.
Most people are leveraging to one side or the other, but they're not trying to sell a position and buy lower. Like unless it's a secular bear run, right? Like in 2022. At that point, you can get out of the market, step out and step back in. But if you're trying to step out and step back in on every leg up, eventually those legs are going to leave you behind. And that's what a lot of people miss the point on.
Let's talk about ETH. High time frame again. Look how long we consolidated and ranged under $2,100. Look at how long, guys. It was over 500 days from here until this most recent breakout. 566 days. Oops. Let's change this. 566 days. We were in this range and we just broke out of it. And everybody's eager to call the top right now. It's the top. Oh my gosh. Let's flip the chart for perspective. All right. Look at this thing. We'll get rid of this for now. Look at this thing. If we were looking at this, we'd be going, oh crap. Oh my gosh, we're nuking. Look at this. Oh,
what
crap.
That looks like Bitcoin at, what is it, 6K?
This right here?
Yeah, doesn't it kind of look like that bouncing ball type of price action?
Yeah, I think it does.
Wonder what that overlay looks like.
Well, say less, Tommy.
You know what that looks like almost is like an inverted BNB chart.
What you're talking about right here. This is what you're talking about?
I mean, yeah, basically same concept, right? What happened when it finally broke out? Fireworks. I think we're pretty close to seeing ETH's outperformance. I don't think we're going to have to wait terribly longer before we see it. from a time standpoint. I don't know the exact price that it'll initiate the bounce from, or like, you know, its parabolic ascent from.
Interesting, Tommy. Very, very interesting. So that would imply that we're potentially right in here.
And that makes sense.
What happens when you spend this amount of time? You spend this much time. This was 200 days. I guess we could go back further, right? If we wanted to.
ETH beta goes insane in that scenario. Somebody asked me a bag I like. I actually really like sushi. And I have no faith in it as a protocol at all, but I think it can do what Link just did, where, you know, for a trade, it just, you know, Link broke out, did almost 200% from the low. Sushi is much more depressed than Link, smaller market cap. I actually think the price action off the low mimics Rune a lot more than it does Link, which would imply a very large move for sushi. So I actually think sushi is, you know, one of the coins I've kind of pegged as a potential outperformer here over the next few weeks, especially if, you know, we get that move on ETH.
Let's look at it. Sushi. We'll pull it up.
And let me be clear. I think sushi is a like DeFi trash, but sometimes buying DeFi trash is profitable.
Interesting.
So when I was trying to find, you know, what price I thought looked like what sushi is printing right now, and you know, when you see a lot of DeFi like Link, like SNX, ultimately its accumulation ranges were very neat and tidy in the sense that it just literally kind of went sideways. There was a very well-defined bottom. It was deep value. You really didn't bleed beyond that. But Rune was a little bit different, right? And sushi is a little bit different, where it set an initial low from the 3AC collapse, but then it continued to bleed and make even new lows around the time of FTX. And so I think, you know, Rune is a somewhat decent playbook if you are looking to be bullish sushi, right? You should be somewhat expecting, you know, that price action to be replicated. Not that sushi will have to outperform as much as Rune, because let's be honest, Rune has been one of the best performing coins throughout this rally. But that second red box that you have marked out, I kind of think that sushi is consolidating to form that move eventually on a higher time frame. I mean, you know, breaks from how long has sushi been consolidating at this point? Like almost 2 years. You'd have to imagine that's going at least a few 100% if it does give an authentic breakout.
Yeah, I mean, even to just really quickly looking at these, some nice equal highs up here at $5. Seems like an obvious spot.
And $5 is a nice round number to target.
Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting here. It'll be very, very interesting to see if a lot of these laggers, you know, actually do play catch up. You know, for something like sushi, I'd probably rather buy it at like $2 once it gets above this area. Like, I'd like to see it show a little bit more strength. And if it starts consolidating and doing this little dance, you know, right above its previous range high at $2, then I'd probably accumulate it, you know, because right now it's still just within the range. But yeah, I mean, it's like this right here. You know, wait for it to do that little dance, and then buy it.
Yep.
I like it. Jackus, are you around? I see you're in here. We haven't heard much from you.
You haven't heard from me at all, guys. But I was here the entire time. I was waiting for you to To
Jacket
introduce
is always with us in spirit.
Yeah, I had a pretty busy day though. Not gonna lie. At the first time I was in, I was driving myself, but I'm at the PC now. But I'm with you guys. I'm watching, I'm listening, and letting you guys cook because you had plenty of talk to talk about, right? So no reason to disturb. And by the way, I do agree on sushi here.
Eventually, it's going to run really hard. It's just a matter of timing.
Yep, that's it.
I actually went and checked my exchange for when I want to trade this. It's their own max leverage on this bad boy is only 2x, so I'm probably going to have to relocate that trade somewhere else.
2x. Oh
2x.
my God.
I know. What is this? TradFi?
Literally. 2x. This is crypto, man. What are we talking about? Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
You get better leverage margin longing on like a spot exchange.
TIA, man. I'm trying to turn this into a swing trade. We'll see if it happens or not. TIA is such a meat grinder, man. One of the ugliest lower time frame printers that I've ever seen.
I posed this question, or not as much a question, more of just kind of like a thought about altcoins. What do you guys think about because last year they were talking about firms like the Citadel and really efficient market makers coming into crypto. And I think most people assume that it would apply more so to institutional assets like Bitcoin and ETH. But I feel like just based on the price action of kind of top coins anymore, the market making feels much more mechanical, much more like somebody's really capturing that spread back and forth on price. Whereas Bitcoin and ETH, when they're trending, they still feel a bit more like traditional crypto assets in the way that they trade. And I think that has something to do with who's holding the majority of supply, right? Bitcoin and ETH probably still ancient whales that are moving price. But for altcoins, you have market makers that are holding a majority of supply. And maybe we have some new ones. I don't know. I'm just pointing that thought out. The altcoin market making does seem a bit more efficient than usual on this run up.
It seems more predatory. I don't know if I'd say efficient, maybe, but it seems way more predatory, especially on the names that are really high interest, like Celestia, the new shiny toy.
Mm-hmm.
It's even like untradeable on the lower time frames, honestly.
Even Sol. Sol's given some really great rallies, but in between, it has been pretty choppy to try and catch those moves as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's clean on the high time frames, right? Like, this is pretty obvious, but look at this meat grinder. What is this?
It's ugly.
I mean, you'd be fine just trading the extremes, right? Like, if you want to trade range high, range low, just play deviations, I guess. That's fine.
Who could have foreseen that Sol is going to go into a sideways action here?
Who could have foreseen?
Good old Sol. Man, I think Sol's going to chop up and sideways for a few months, and then it's going to get some massive blow off at some point in the spring, and that'll probably be a local top. Or it just mimics the ETH fractal that you guys have been sharing from the last cycle.
It's really that level that Max just pointed out that I think is the max. It's the max upside for Sol. I mean, max upside of this leg, right? Not like max upside of this cycle.
This is your best case right here. Is vertical accumulation, spike to $80, and then something like this.
Legit. This is my plan all year.
Yeah, something like this.
Not all year, but
yeah, something like this. And I think that coming back into this region, this is probably a good spot to start prospecting some buys right around here. So just underneath $50, I like. I like it. You've got some high time frame inefficiencies. You can come back into this region, maybe scoop it up.
I'll
yeah, I
wait
mean,
sub $40.
you like sub 40?
Yeah, I don't like above 40.
Such a perma bear, Jack. Who would have thought?
I'm perma contradictor and perma contrarian.
There you go
People,
here.
sold price down, take bet. Me buy.
Like a
Everyone's
caveman.
everyone's
Jack
solo
Bob, me
rotator. Everyone's solo rotator. Me sell.
That's
Uh,
really the easiest play in the world. Like you just gotta play the sentiment, and the
Yeah.
sentiment is everybody starts talking about it. Here, have my bags. Give me your money. Oh, nobody wants it. Sell it to me. I'll buy it off you for cheap.
I'm more interested in the Sol ETH chart right here. Does it make sense to hold Sol or ETH as beta to Bitcoin this cycle? I would buy. I mean, I think maybe another like sweep at the high or something like that. And
I
I
think
mean,
for
Yeah.
most people though, when you say this, Max, though, what for most people, so
Here's such
or
a perma bear max.
the
yeah,
ETH
he's
play.
right.
The ETH play is more of a outpacing Bitcoin, not necessarily that it's going to outperform Bitcoin as far as like, you might get an extra X or two for the cycle, but like I don't think that ETH's gonna like significantly outperform Bitcoin, if that makes sense.
Well, I think it'll outperform Bitcoin by 100%, which I would consider significant outperformance. I think that you'll see the ETH BTC valuation at above 0.10, and right now, it's at 0.05. So, I mean, if we look at ETH BTC, I mean, I would personally consider that significant outperformance because I feel comfortable being able to size into something like ETH, knowing I'm not going to get rugged. Where with Bitcoin, or I'm sorry, with Solana, I know I'm not going to get rugged. I would also feel comfortable sizing into it, but I'm not so certain of it. Wherever ETH BTC bottoms, I think it's probably pretty close, if not already. I think you probably could come up to, above here, At least that would be the hope. So I would consider this, and maybe we have different definitions of significant outperformance, but I mean, 100, I don't even know, 100% would be back above the range highs. But I think it could do this, which in my opinion is significant outperformance. Because if Bitcoin goes to 100K and ETH BTC's up here, that's a 5-figure ETH. That's pretty significant
Yeah,
given that
I
it's just over
mean,
2,000.
we can call it a 5-figure, but I mean, what's 5-figure? 10K. That's 6K
Yeah,
over
I'd
last
say
cycle.
I'd say it's going to be between $10,000 and $15,000 ETH, honestly.
It's expensive. That's expensive gas, man.
Oh yeah. That's how you know things get frothy, man, is when you start getting concerned about transactions because you don't want to pay the gas.
You don't want to pay the gas, bro. Like I'm sure you saw it too, Tommy. But like last cycle's gas, like $500
Dude.
sometimes for transactions.
I think about peak froth, man, and how at one point I was paying like $500 a transaction to farm yield on tokens that were probably worth like 100 or $200 just because I expected them to go up that much more. Oh man.
Yep.
I was used as exit liquidity on that coin, so it ended predictably.
It's a rite of passage, Tommy. It's something to be proud of. Everybody is exit liquidity at one point. It's you have to pay that. You have to pay your entrance fee into the market.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah, unfortunately. Tuition.
It is tuition. I like this trend line though. I like it a lot.
So does ETH.
Well,
So
we'll
does
see.
he.
Yeah.
TIA. Oh, squeeze him. Let's go, boys. Let's go.
Who are we squeezing?
Just a guy named him. That's all.
Okay.
One of the best traders I know, but he needs to get squeezed here because I need it higher.
TIA is going higher, if any.
Yeah, we're looking not too bad here. Dude, my hood calls are like just
Wow.
renting right now, man. We sniped that, man.
Good job. Good job.
We absolutely sniped that, man. Who could have foreseen? I want to know. Who could have foreseen.
Good job, Max. Very good job.
Thank you, Chef Jackus.
Have to buy an apron for Christmas or something.
I will get him an apron. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get Chef Jackus an apron.
What is apron?
It's like, it's like what chefs wear when they're cooking, so they don't get stuff all over their clothes.
Oh, okay.
An apron with an ape printed on the front.
Yeah.
All you need.
No, it's gonna be an apron with my face on it. That's what it's gonna be.
Dude, guys, Ordinals.
No, that's a
Ordinals.
Christmas sweater. That's a Christmas sweater, Max.
Dude, Ordinals are rugging, aren't they?
No, they dumped 40% a day and are 46% from the drop already in the span of one day.
I heard the FUD about that. That was kind of dumb.
They legit dumped 40% in a day and are up 45% in a day in that same day.
Well, yeah, it was one of the Bitcoin like core devs. What's his name? Luke Dasher or something like that. He said that it's basically exploiting Bitcoin, and yeah, look at that. And it needs to be amended. Yeah, look at that. From the high, 38%.
Let's
But
be
it turns out the guy's a total weirdo, right?
Let's
Say
be
that again?
hindsighters, guy, and tell these guys how they should have bought at the big bottom.
That's crazy. Look at this move. Wow.
Yeah.
I kind of
Like,
think it's going to dump from here, though, honestly.
Some of these alts, they don't do it in months, and Ordinals does both in a day.
Do you guys think we can get any signal from BRC tokens leading Bitcoin potentially? I haven't lined up any price action. I'm just curious.
I have no idea.
Is it Bitcoin leading these or these leading Bitcoin?
Well, on a higher time frame, Bitcoin's going to move first, and then it'll rotate into BRCs. But on a lower time frame, you might pick up a little bit of, risk specific to certain assets will, kind of serve as a leading indicator before markets trend strongly in either direction. So I'm just curious if like Ordi could be telegraphing Bitcoin somehow. Not that, like I said, I haven't overlaid it on price at all, but.
Well, we're going to do that right now.
Maybe.
So are we saying that beta's leaving the beta of the beta?
Yes. Beta of the beta.
Is it Omega then? Or something?
Let's zoom out just a little bit more.
Is beta of a beta of a beta just Omega?
There you go, Omega. As far as games go, yeah, it's the Omega.
I kind of think. Wait, hang on. Let's see.
You need to work on your scaling up skills, Max.
They kind of happened at the same time. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really see it.
Yeah, there's not too much signal from it.
You know what it is, right? Like these founders and these people that are like creating these projects, they're so desperate for liquidity that they're exiting their own projects that are probably going to do exponentials in the bull run. I find it actually hilarious that people sell at these ranges, and we haven't even entered the euphoria stage yet.
Max, can
Yes.
you read the first pages of it's going to be a little bit chill of mine, but I want these guys to see this, and then I'm gonna apply it to something else of the current. I'm gonna send this thread that I wrote in. You don't have to read it like all, but read the first few pages, right? I made that thread on June 14th of 2022.
Okay, let's see.
Because it's probably the best thread you want to keep for the next cycle and the next cycle and so forth.
All right, this is from some guy named I am Jackus. I don't know. He's verified.
Is that random?
I guess yeah, he's some random guy, some Twitter anon.
From some random company, seems.
Yeah, I don't know what this is. This stupid yellow logo. I don't even. Wow, I don't understand. All right. So this guy, he said, my biggest mistake in the past cycles was that I was waiting for lower prices just as I was advised to. When the bull returns, it comes out of nowhere and you tend to get caught up in all the bearishness that you miss it completely. And then here's a picture, money, technology, personal sovereignty, Bitcoin, right in the middle of all of it. You tend to not trust the next move up because all the past ones have failed and the price is too high now anyway that you'll be waiting for the pullback that doesn't come. Eventually, you'll feel a FOMO gets to you, but it's too late. Looking back, it's all obvious in real time. It's all obvious, but in real time, it's not. We can always say how it was in hindsight. Experience and past examples teach us that people buying the breakdown of the unbreakable, quote unquote, 6K support were the real winners. Experience and past examples teach us that people buying the breakdown of the $300 level after the Mt. Gox fiasco, when all the hope was lost and Bitcoin was proclaimed dead, were the real winners. In hindsight, it's always obvious, but in real time, back then, it meant that you bought and you were underwater for several months. Many, many percent. It means buying the red candles and sticking to the plan. And with all the possible worst news you could imagine, just as now. I believe this time will be no different. Anyone buying the breakdown of 35K or 29K feels the same way we felt in the past cycles. It also means you might have to stay in a drawdown for several months or who knows how long. But going back to post one, if I could give myself some advice, it's just to DCA these red candles. Trying to make a perfect spot entry tends to leave you most of the time on the sidelines. And for months, it can feel great, and then it feels the worst. Yes, there will be people that will absolutely nail the bottom. It'll be the minority, and the chances you do so are very low. Yes, there will be people that tweet about it, and there actually might be a lot of them, but in reality, they won't trade it, although they say they will have. Take time and write a plan, and trust me, you have time now. This will help you to avoid all the drama in the news, on Twitter, and so on. And if you think it doesn't affect you, well, it does, just like ads do, even if you think they don't. The fundamentals have never been better for Bitcoin, unlike the past cycles, yet sentiment-wise, it feels the worst of those. Why is that? Is a question. Maybe because of the macro situation. The price doesn't reflect all the fundamentals at the moment, but in time it will. Well, this is supposed to be a one tweet, and here we are on the 11th as I let a few of the thoughts let loose. Haha. Hope some of you do the right choice, and I wish you the best of luck. Yeah, it's a great thread. We should follow this guy.
Real quick though, AZTV said, "I disagree, Will. Who's gonna buy your bags? Last cycle there was money printing. That's like a consistent normie, and I don't mean that in any disrespectful way, but it's a normie response. Who bought the bags in 2017? Who bought the bags in 2015, 16, so on and so forth. All previous cycles. Like there was no money printing then. Like and people still bought the bags. People bought crypto kitties in 17. People bought punks in 2017. Those what value is in those? Absolutely nothing. Like and I don't mean that in the aspect of now. Now they have nostalgia, right? They're part of the space, so they have, you know, just staying power essentially. So now that is the value in them. But if you look at these things as a whole, everybody always goes back to the stimulus conversation. You don't need stimulus to drive a market. It's a world market. Stimulus doesn't have to occur in the U.S. either. It can occur elsewhere. I mean, Japan just did a $135 billion stimulus package. Where do you think that money's going to flow? You think it's just going to flow into their ecosystem? Some of it's going to flow into crypto, and different economies can do different stimuluses throughout. And I feel like so many people are just so stuck on the money printing that occurred in 2021 that they don't have the understanding to know that you don't need stimulus to drive markets. We're seeing that with price alone. Price is telling you that crypto would not be recovering right now if it was just because of the stimmies. All of crypto would be down still. So I want to be clear about that because I'm not at all trying to bash. I'm just trying to help educate and help you guys understand. Like, the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay liquid, and I think that's the most sane concept you can ever think about in your head. Like, at times you can call it shut up and buy. You can call it close your eyes and throw darts at the dartboard and hope you hit the center. You can call it whatever you want, but when a reversal moves or momentum starts to play in your favor, there will be speculators in every side of the court. It doesn't matter what kind of crap you're selling.
I put Jackus's tweet here on the chart, guys.
Yeah, I wanted to say to that the tweet was shared on June 14th, 2022 at 22K, right? And I was repeating it many times, and at that time, like, it's just, in my opinion, it's one of my best threads I've written because it hits all those emotions, and I know this will repeat, right? It will repeat on the upside just as on the downside. And I was mentioning things like, people that will get caught up in all the bearishness and will stay on the sidelines. And man, it's just happening that I said we might spend many months down here, and we have. And during that time, and I will repeat, the time is such an undervalued aspect in markets, because when you spend the time down there, it really shifts your sentiment, right? There is a difference why the market makers don't just dump the price and then go straight up. They need to create that sentiment. They need to create that boredom and so forth. So the market really has to there is a saying, capitulation by time, and that works very well. And there are some people that told me that this thread really helped them, and for that I'm glad. But as usual, as we see in the market right now, most people miss that. Most people have, and they did not care. And then I also mentioned, and I didn't know back then, man, but I mentioned empty Gox fiasco as a you had to hold through that empty Gox fiasco, and then we got FTX, right? Like, we didn't had any exchange blow up in the past cycle. We only had it in 2014-15 bear market, right? And we got that this cycle after this was posted. And yeah, it always pans out when you start to DCA these rent candles. And where I wanted to go with this is, in my opinion, ETH, right? ETH is the bad tech right now. And everything I say in this thread can be applied on the ETH BTC chart right now.
Well,
Yeah.
real quick to add to this right here, like, too, and it's just, this is how you could tell the market is still not ready. It's still not dialed in, still not primed. And this is why I said we haven't even made it to the euphoria stage and people are already selling. Um, is people just don't understand how illiquid crypto is. That all it's going to take is a little bit of spark in the stock market. People start to see money move back in. They're going to start speculating immediately into things like crypto and so on and so forth. They're going to start moving in quickly to accumulate ranges that most people were just not willing to bid. They weren't. I'm being like, man, I don't even know, man. Like it's actually crazy. Like I guess my mind is just wired differently than everybody else's. So I get where Joe was going with this conversation the other day when he's talking about, you're just built different than other people. But it just I don't know how people can't get in that mindset to where they got to understand like look what depreciation looks like, what max fear looks like, and even to the bag holder conversation, all these things have market makers. Spy has bag holders. Every single thing out there has bag holders. Apple has s tons of bag holders, but what does Apple do? It continues to chat through all the bag holders. I mean, Max, you were telling me the one time you were like, oh, I looked at Apple at like 1 trillion. It's like the valuation is too high, and it ended up being 3 trillion.
Yep.
And we had a discussion too, and this is I think where I kind of broke through a little bit, where I basically told you I was like, look, I was like in 2021, what prices would you have killed to have gotten Bitcoin at? And nobody could not say like they wouldn't have killed to get Bitcoin at 20K. Like nobody in 2021 would have come to you and like, oh yeah, man, if I could have got Bitcoin at 20K, I would have loaded the bags. Everybody in 2021 would have told you
Yeah,
that.
when you're up here in peak bull, like when you're up in here, you don't think you're ever going to get these prices again. It just doesn't ever feel like it. It never feels like you are. And then you come down there and suddenly you don't want it, And it's just how quick time changes things, So I was talking about this earlier in the show and in our Discord. You have to formulate a plan when emotions are basically at the opposite end, where you're like, okay, Bitcoin's at 60K. If it ever gets under, let's just say under this level again, I'll buy it. I'll slowly begin to DCA. You identify a clear SR level, SR flip. If we ever get back underneath here, I'll buy it again. I'd love to buy Bitcoin just anywhere under this line. When you're up in here, it doesn't feel like you're gonna get it. Look at the chart. It doesn't feel like you're gonna get it. You look at it, here it comes, right?
It's going
And
to
then
take a while.
suddenly you do get it. But you have to come up with that plan when emotions are not involved, because then once you're down there, you're like, oh, well, some guy on Twitter said we're going to go down to, $6,000 or, something like that. Oh, there's some equal lows at 3,000 on Bitcoin. He said, we're finally going to get it. So it's like you have to formulate these plans years in advance. You really do.
And you got to stick to them. If you can't stick to them, that's why. That's what a lot of people don't have conviction to execute. This is why the BB team works, because we execute. You
Yeah.
can't work as a trader and not execute on conviction on price in a certain price range. Like you'll never be a trader if you cannot have conviction on your trades. And conviction on your trades means once you set a thesis, stick to it. Stick to it. I'll tell you, more often than not, I failed anytime that I have not stuck to my thesis. This is why,
Oh
like,
yeah.
I don't do certain things, because even though I may want to, and I think it looks like a good play, I have my own strategy and it works. So I figured out something that works for me and I just stick to it. It's higher time frame, you know, boring, so on and so forth. But I look for the meat of the moves, and I take advantage of them. A lot of people, they can't stick to their thesis. They go one thesis 1 week and they change it the next and they change it the next, and then they're coming back to the drawing board and they're like, oh, I keep failing. The trading doesn't work. It doesn't work because you're not consistent. That's all it is.
I would add to that, Will, and to what Max was just going through, is the time aspect, right? It's still so important, and I'll keep on reminding, because Max just played this bear and bull market pretty quickly in the replay mode on TradingView, which, by the way, is very helpful. But the thing is that when you go through it live, you have to spend there week after week. Like you actually think how long it takes to live your day life, your actual day, how much time it takes. 24 hours. I mean, if you say that like that, it sounds stupid, but if you have to actually live that one day, think how much stuff you do in that one day, and then you have to spend in that price action, you have to spend there every single day, and it does nothing, nothing, nothing. Day after day, week after week, you are in that boring range. Nothing is happening, and that changes the sentiment, right? If it was as quick as Max played it in the replay mode, if we went in the bear market, nobody would care because it would be quickly, right? People would be just fine. I'll hold through this drop. I do not care. If it was this quick on the weekly chart, the problem is it's not. If you bought on this chart, it would be like 5 minutes, right? You bought at, I don't know, 50, 40. You will just hold through the bear market and you won't care. You will just hold through that slightly deeper pullback, but conviction in a strong one. The problem is that so many people spend every single day through it. They come every single day, check the Bitcoin price 5, 10, some apes even more times a day, right? And it really gets to you. And this is where the people change their sentiment in that time way down there. This is why I keep saying that most people spend their time on the 1 hour and H4 timeframes. Those timeframes are there to make you on the opposite side of the weekly, usually, right? And I mean, it's not, there can be people that make it work pretty well on H1, but mostly, you get something like very bearish price action on H1 while you are in a bullish structure on the daily or weekly or something, and then it reverts. So you really need to integrate this type of thinking into your decision making.
Yeah, well said. Very well said. All right, guys. I think that's a great note to end on. I think we're going to call it here. We've been going about an hour and a half. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Also, if you have not yet, please consider subscribing to the channel here. We are almost at 3,000 subscribers. It'd be fantastic if you guys could help push us over that milestone. We've been tracking it very closely for quite some time now. We'd love to hit 3K. And yeah, if you're new here as well, this is Market Check brought to you by Because Bitcoin. We are live 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 10:50 a.m. Eastern time with this cast that you're looking at right now, plus one more guy, our CFO named Tucker, who's out a little bit under the weather today, but he will be back better than ever in no time. But yeah, guys, please consider subscribing to the channel, helping us hit 3K. And if you haven't yet, also like the video. It really helps push our content and does wonders for our growth. Now, the infamous Discord shill. Guys, if you want to trade with us, the Because Bitcoin team, me, Snorlax, Jackus, Will, Tucker, and Wabi in the Discord. If you like the show, you will absolutely love the Discord. We do upwards of 2 hours per day of private live voice calls, one before the New York session opens, and then the second right before the New York session closes, Monday through Friday, the two most important times of each trading day. If you want to find your community to ride in my opinion, a rapidly approaching bull market, and then maybe some turbulence into the bear market and equities, but time will tell. If you want to find a community that is transparent and honest, forthright, and really focused on transparency and education, this is for you. We also have an active positions channel in the Discord where we share all of our plays, all of our setups. And again, if you really like the TA that we do and the discussions that we have, we take it to the next level in the Discord where, how do you actually implement and place bets based on the trades that we're outlining? And that's the focus of the Discord. It's not a signals group, but I suppose you could use it like one if you wanted to. There's plenty of tailing and trades that goes on. But it's really focused on execution, and it's all in the name of education and transparency. So it's been growing really quickly. I'm not exactly sure how long we're going to keep it open for. We are just through the holiday season going to continue to offer a free 1-month trial, but that's going to be turned off very, very quickly here because it's growing so fast. We want to ensure the quality of it, number one. This isn't going to be some fast food franchise that the first location's great, and then as it gets too big, the quality diminishes. So I'm not exactly sure what the future holds, but I would just say, get in while you can, especially with a free trial, and see if you like it. So I'm going to put a code across the bottom of the screen. Use code at checkout, free month, and you can find the link to sign up. First link in the description below. It's becausebitcoin.com/premium. Again, it's a really awesome experience. There's not a community out there that works harder. And again, we share all of our active positions. And we do a lot of, really, it's a lot of handholding. Like, we narrate 2 hours per day what we're seeing in the markets, things that are changing, things that people need to know. You've got the entire Because Bitcoin team scanning the market like hawks to make sure that we don't miss a damn thing. So again, it's a really great time. You can try it for 1 month for free. And definitely sign up while you can. So code across the bottom of the screen for 1 free month. Again, it will not charge your card. You can try it 30 days risk-free. But with that said, I'm going to kick it over to Snorlax for a final farewell.
Thanks, Max. Yeah, guys, echoing everything Max just said. We've been crushing it in the Discord. If you've been tuning into these streams, you know exactly, how and why that is. We talk about a lot of stuff on this show that we do in the Discord, but in the Discord we go much more in depth. Of course, like Max was saying, we have 2 private calls, and it's not a signals group like he said, but you can use it as one if you like. It's really more so for the matter of transparency that we like to post all of our positioning and all that good stuff. But it's been a great show for Wednesday. I hope everybody had a fantastic I hope everybody's had a fantastic start to their morning or afternoon, depending on where you're viewing the stream from. And make sure to tune in for Market Talk with King Wabi later at 4:15, 4:30 Eastern time. Sometimes being a little bit later starting, depending on how late we go with the Giga Chads. But y'all have a great rest of your Wednesday. We'll be back tomorrow, and thanks again so much for your support.